Hi everyone, welcome to the series of JDBC tutorial titled Simply JDBC. So in today's lecture, we will see what are the different components of JDBC API. So JDBC API is basically divided into different classes and interfaces, and people or the developer, application developer, will make use of these interfaces and classes so that he or she can write program in Java so that it can connect, the program can connect to database and it can do different database operation. So let's first understand the first thing, that is class. So here there is something called as the driver manager. So it's actually class. So in the bracket it is written in yellow, that is class. So this class, why do you require it? It's going to manage a list of database driver. So the name itself is quite self-explanatory, like it's going to manage different database driver. Like you can have driver for MySQL, you can have MySQL, you can have a driver for Oracle and stuff like that. What does it do? So it's going to match the request from Java application with the proper database using communication sub protocols. That means internally it has a mechanism where it's going to match to that request. Say for example, Java application makes a request to connect to MySQL, then that particular request will be matched internally. It will try to see the different communication protocols, and then internally it will see whether it is successful or whether it can provide, it can basically connect to that particular driver and it can access database, or it cannot. So essentially it's going to do the connection request, matches the connection request. Then comes the driver. So this particular thing is an interface, it's not a class, so it's an interface. So this is an interface. What does it do? It handles the communication with the database server. Okay, then you typically as an application programmer, you are not directly going to interact with driver objects, so you are not going to do that. So you are basically are interested only in the implementations of this driver interface. So driver object manager objects are, so you are going to use driver manager objects which manages the objects of this type, but you are not directly going to interact with driver objects. Okay, so first is the class, which is a driver manager. Second one is a driver, which is an interface. Okay, and we are going to rely on driver manager, and our application as well as the code will demonstrate that. Let's get into the other one. Then comes the connection. So this is an interface. So this interface with all the methods for contacting a database. So essentially it acts as an interface with all the methods. Like you are going to have different methods, so that using those methods you will perform the operations on database. So this particular connection object will represent a communication context, that is all communication with database is through the connection object only. So you are going to rely on connection object. So it is not like the way in which I told you about driver. So you are going to rely on communication object, and using this object only you are basically going to talk to, or you are going to contact database. Then comes the statement, and this is a very important interface. This is related to the when you are going to submit SQL statements. So basically this is again an interface, and then the objects from this interface will be created. So object created from this interface to submit SQL statement to the database. So just try to remember only that we are going to work with few classes and few interfaces. Don't try to get into more details right now, because anyway the code will demonstrate it. So statement is used typically when it comes to actually submitting the SQL statement. Okay. Then comes the result set. So result set is a, basically we are going to make use of the object. So result set is essentially, it's a class. So you are going to make use of these objects which will hold the data that you have retrieved from the database after you have executed a SQL query and using a statement object. So that means you can see it that you will have a statement, and then after that there will be a result set. Anyway, code will demonstrate this properly. So these objects are going to hold the data after retrieving from database. Then it is an iterator, because suppose if there are list of records, if for example there are 100 records in a particular table, then it's going to give me the list, but it's essentially an iterator. That means you can get one record by record Like that you can iterate over all those 100 records as you move through the data. Then SQL exception, it's actually a class, so it handles any errors that occur in a database application. We will see the usage of all these concepts, which are the JDBC components, as part of the code base. Now the next class will basically take about working with respect to the type 4 driver. Thank you.